All right, guys, today is Friday, September 17th, 2021. Today marks day 16 of the 30-day build. I'm going to work on the body a little bit today. I'm waiting on valve seals to come in from Summit. It's probably going to be a couple days. It may come in tomorrow, but anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. I actually waited too late last night to place the order, so I don't think it shipped out yesterday. That's what I like about Summit. You order your parts. If you order it during the day, you usually get it the next day or the day after, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'm going to work on the body today because I'm pretty much finished with the chassis. Man, that's just awesome to say, let me tell you. That is freaking awesome. That is, I mean, the reality, in 15 days I have a painted and decently detailed chassis pretty much ready to go. That's freaking awesome, man. So today I've decided to work on the body. Now I've rolled the four-door body up, got it out from the side over there a little bit to get it up here. I got a big laundry list to do on this thing today. I don't know how far I'm going to get today, but I'm going to give it a pretty good shot. But I do not want to go through and do a full-blown smoothing of the firewall. That would, on average, that takes about a week and a half of work to do all that thorough work on this, to smooth one up and do it all real nice. So I'm pretty much going to leave it stockish. Now, I do have some mock-up stuff to do. I've got to go find my firewall pad, because I think there's a couple more holes I might go ahead and weld up. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave the holes for the firewall pad. I'm using a stock replacement firewall pad, but anyway, the battery box is going in the stock location and all that, but I'm pretty sure that one of these two can go, if not both. I'm just not sure. I'm kind of tempted to go ahead and weld this one up myself too. But anyway, what I got going on is I want to try to get all the old seam sealer off the firewall. I mean, you can see it's just pretty much falling off in places, but it's such a terrible look, to have that stuff all slimed on there like that, because when the hood's open, I mean, this is front and center. You're going to see that, especially with it being body color. One thing I've never liked about these Tri-5 Chevys, they're the 5.6 mainly because they have the same firewalls, these wiring tabs right here. Your wiring harness comes out and goes up and over across this and then down. So it's an excess amount of wire to come up and around. When you open the hood, that's all you see is that wiring right there. So, with this firewall going to be a green, kind of like this, like a pale green, it's just going to stick off like a sore thumb. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these and do my usual of drilling a hole up under here for a grommet. So I do have my grommet box out here. I'll have to look at my hardtop because I can't remember which one I used on it, but that basically runs the wires down behind the firewall pad and out here, and especially going to the starter and the HEI and everything, it's all kind of up underneath going up instead of having it out on top. So I'm going to do just a few subtle things, but it should look good. But the other thing I don't like on these firewalls, this is a usual thing, is they're bowed like this. Actually, I'll get this here and we'll take a look. If I can get that off there. See how far sunk in that is? So instead of just loading that with filler, I think I'll weld some studs on here with my stud gun and try to pull this out a little bit. It's the same way here. But anyway, so I'm going to remove these three tabs and I'm going to try to pull these areas right here and here. And I think I'll go ahead and just probably wipe body filler along this right here and then go back and block it and try to at least make this pretty slick. Probably do the spot weld indents right here. Probably go ahead and weld those up, or fill those with filler, not weld them up. I still need to finish this, and I need to weld in my piece here for the dimmer switch. I covered that in an older video. But I cannot remember on these holes here. don't know what this one's for, and I don't remember what this one's for. I'm pretty sure that one's a firewall pad, but I'm not 100%. No, that's a heater box hole right there, I think. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and weld up this hole, that hole, that hole, and that hole. But, you know, just try to make it a little bit cleaner, I guess. At least up there. But I need to drill a hole here with a step bit, and I need to find the grommet and figure out which one it actually needs. But anyway, so I got a little bit of work to do on the firewall itself, and then I got to go through and try to get all the paint off of this and get that old seam sealer. Getting that out of there is what's going to take forever. I'm going to have to go in here and chip it all out of this seam, and you know, probably have to blast it as well because it is rusty up in there. Probably blast it and then put a little etch primer or epoxy, whatever I got in there. Shoot that down in there, and then when it dries, then I'll go in and seam seal it. I'm going to use a 2-part seam sealer that takes that special gun because that stuff dries really hard. You can shape it with sanding it. And I also want to use it around this deal here, which I now have to blast because I spot welded it and just left it. So anyway, I'll take seam sealer and put it in there, and I'll take my finger and run around it real good so it should make a nice little, you know, transition into that. And then after I prime it and sand it and paint it, it should look like it's just sunk in, you know, like it was made that way. I'll hope anyway. Then the dash needs to be blasted with a blaster because this is all surface rust on the top where it was sanded and left. And then I'll have to weld up these 3 holes. And then when I brush POR 15 all back underneath the dash and the firewall and everything in here a long time ago, I found something silly. Which you always find silly stuff, but can you see that hole right there is drilled into here? Anybody got any ideas why that's a bad idea to drill a hole up under there? You don't really want to put anything in this right here if you're running your factory cal vents, because water and air goes through here. So fuse box sets right here off a little bit, so that's a good place to, you know, have water come out and run down. So I'm gonna have to weld that up. The beauty of it is I don't have to grind it because it's under the dash and I don't really care. But you know, when your louvered panel's screwed into this, you know, your water and air, if you're driving in the rain, that rain's gonna go down on this. So, and it goes down into the sides of the car, and that's how you get your fresh air in, is through the cal vents right here. There's little flapper doors that go in here, and then screens that screw on there. But anyway, so I've got to repair that. There's also a dent on the side of the dash over here down low. I've already pulled it out, but I need to, you know, wipe some filler here and then go back and block it. And then I just haven't decided if I'm going to fix these or not. I just don't know. I'm not worrying about a radio in the dash right here, but you know, later on, you know, it might be a good idea to buy that auto retro sound or whatever that's called radio to put in there. I don't know. I've got a radio block off plate for this car to put there, so that's why I kind of debated on even fixing it or not. But anyway, I got a long list of stuff to do, so I guess I'm going to get started. I got to go get the firewall pad and bring it out here and mock it up and see what holes need to go or stay, because I don't want any unused holes in the firewall for, you know, water to get into and sound and bugs, that type of stuff. So here we go. All right, first order of business is I drilled the rivets off of the, you know, little trim tag here. I think I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. So instead of just welding them up and smoothing them, what I'm going to do is I've got some little Allen buttons here. These are stainless steel I can polish on the buffing wheel. I think I will actually, I'm going to use a step bit and I'm going to enlarge these holes just enough for the nut, 1024 nut to fit down in there. I'll use a step bit until that fits down in there. And then I'll pretty much weld that nut in there flush and, you know, grind it. And at that point, it'll have a nut in the panel to use these little 1024s to reattach the trim tag, which will pretty much look something like this. Instead of using the rivets, you know. I don't have those rivets here, and I don't even have a rivet gun that would put those rivets in, so I would, I'll just do these. stainless Allen buttons. So I got these holes here that are absolutely worthless. I think I'm going to fill those as well. Weld some metal in there, smooth them off. This is where it gets complicated when you're doing a firewall. You want to clean it up a little bit, but you don't want to spend a lot of time. But at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of unused crap here that I'd like to get rid of. So, I'm going to go ahead and get those knocked out right now. So let's get started drilling. Alright, so I got the nuts welded in there and then ground it and then run the little electric DA with 80 over it just to smooth it up a little bit. It's still going to have some filler, but it won't be terrible, you know what I mean? I'm going to go ahead and cut some pieces out and put in there too. That way I don't have to mess with putting rubber plugs in there. Because I got to body work this little area anyway, so I might as well, you know what I mean? Just do it up. Now these screws are a little bit smaller, the thread part anyway, than the hole in the trim tag, but they have a little raised indent around them that these actually fit into kind of nice, so I'll just have to get it centered pretty decent. But anyway, this will allow me to, now I can paint the firewall, and then I will paint this body color because it's supposed to be. I've polished these before and then put them back on, but it's in your face at that point. I'm going to play off the originality and just go ahead and repaint this. When I paint the firewall, paint this separate, and then after it's bolted on, there'll be paint under it. So I don't have to worry about, flaking paint around it or something like that. But anyway, that's what it looks like. I did polish one of the bolt heads on the buffing wheel. I'll just run it on the buffing wheel for just, like 2 seconds just to show what it could look like. There's an unpolished one, but 1024 stainless steel Allen button. Sunk in some 1024 nuts down in there and welded it up. So now I'm going to weld up this and this. I started putting on my dimmer switch stuff too. Alright, so I got the pieces of steel cut and put in there and tack welded in both sides. Those are actually kind of sunk in. The metal around it was sunk in a little bit, so anyway, I just went ahead and welded them up. They're going to have to take some filler. And then I got these 3 holes welded up in the dash from somebody's tachometer. And I had to retack this spot that I'd welded a long time ago because it had a spot that wasn't quite, you could see it. So I just went ahead and redid it. So anyway, what I'm doing is basically taking vice grips here and clamping them on sideways to these, wiring, whatever these are called, tabs. And I just sardine can roll it like that, and then you'll have to go back and grind it a little bit. But anyway, so I go back and grind this stuff off. There's still a little bit of sheet metal there, but it'll end up smoothing off pretty good. And then I'm going to weld up those 2 holes, these 2 holes, and then I think I'm going to weld my studs across here. Man, you can really see that crease across there. Or I can. I don't know if that's showing up in the camera or not, but anyway, this is just way too low for my taste. I'm going to have to fix that. And then all these spot weld indents right through here. This is always a terrible spot anyway. Going to be a lot of work in this firewall, man. A lot of work. Oh, this poor firewall is rough, man. Golly. Look at how deep the spot weld indents are right across the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill all that and smooth it out. I'm going to fill these spot weld indents here as well. It's got a few dings in here, some pretty good wrinkles, and so I'll fix a lot of this stuff, but I'm not going to fix it all. Just the big stuff that's going to show. That's actually high right here. I have to hammer that in just a little bit. Anyway, this is going to take some time getting this thing stripped off, but trying to get that old seam sealer off is what's taking the longest. I'm just basically using a 90-degree angle grinder with a scotchet disc in it and just really going at it. And then I tried a little bit of 36 action on this little electric DA, but it, the 80's actually feathering it off pretty decent. I don't have to worry about getting every stitch of that factory primer off of there. That stuff stuck pretty good. So I mean, it's paper thin now anyway, but I'm not going to worry about getting a super clean metal. Anyway, I got a high spot here. That's sharp. I got to figure this out. Something's up with this. I need to look at that. I need to look at my car, I think. Alright guys, I started putting some studs on here with my stud gun. You can still see the primer line right there. That's like a crease in the middle. It's on both sides. So I'm going to try to pull that out so the filler's not so deep there. Anyway, this is a stud gun from Harbor Freight that I bought probably, I don't know, 7-8 years ago maybe. I love this thing. I know a lot of body shops that have the exact one as this, and one guy I know has had it for almost 20 years, so they work just fine, especially for the price. I will say, if you're going to use this, the metal you're trying to stick these to needs to be super clean. Like, even after you sand it, you need to wipe it off. Don't leave any dust particles on there from the sanding residue or anything. You basically put the stud in the end of it like this, and you stick it up there where you want the stud, and then you have to push in the machine. It has a spring and contact with the touch of the metal. Lunchtime. This is the slide hammer you get with it, and it has a little dial right here. Now, when I first bought this thing was real sticky, like it would stick up in there and I'd have to pull it down, and I finally put a little I think WD-40 or something down in there, just a little bit, and worked it a little bit. So the more you use it, the looser it gets. That almost didn't sound right. It doesn't take much. That is already way better. You don't have to hammer on that thing really hard. It'll pull pretty easy. Oh man. Like this shoe right here. All right, now I'm going to show you how to properly remove a stud. I had a buddy over here several years ago as I was stud gunning something, and what he did was reached up there and grabbed that and just twisted back and forth and pulled it off, and it put a hole in the middle. I had to go back and weld it. So all you do is basically, you don't have to have channel locks or vice grips or anything. You just put regular little pliers on there and just turn it. Turn it like that. And it just twists it right off there and didn't put a hole in the middle. My grip's tight enough here. Just a little bit of twisty action. Just pulls it right off. So if you go up and down like that, it's just going to end up weakening the metal in that spot, and it will put a hole in the sheet metal. If I had pliers that had already been done instead of here messing with these stupid things, but Oh, that is way better, man. Way better. Those stud guns are, if you're doing metal work, those are very handy to have, man. All right, guys, I'm going to show you something that I did back in the 90s to a 55. I did it again to my hardtop in 2013, and it's just something, to me, it smooths the firewall up, but it still allows you to use your replacement firewall pad. Now when I say firewall pad, that is this thing right here. This is an old crappy one, but anyway, if you get a brand new one, you know, this in a 55, it was designed to be clipped in, like you stick it up in here and then you put these metal shark teeth clips through that way. So out here you have these clips hanging out. Now in 56, they went to a plastic, or you know, kind of like a Christmas tree type of attachment, and it, you know, snaps in and you still have something sticking out of the firewall. So this is what I like to do. I will take a 3/4 inch long 1/4 by 20 bolt. Now you could use 5/16, you could probably even use up to 3/8, but I have 1/4 20s here. These are stainless steel, so I'm going to use them. It's just because that's all I've got. I've only got one CAD plated one. So what I'll do is I will remove the markings from the head, and that's just basically so I know the bolt will actually fit flat up onto the firewall. So try to show this here. Now if you had a CAD plated, you know, regular old bolt, you would definitely want to do that anyway to get the CAD coating off of it so it'll weld good. The stainless, it's pretty much, you know, it'll weld up there anyway. Anyway, at this point, I will take that Sharpie right there and I'll draw a dot on it. Right in the middle of it here. Doesn't have to be perfect, just something like that. Now what I have done in the past is I have taken some masking tape or duct tape, just whatever I had, and I poked a hole in the center of a piece, you know, a couple inches long, and then slid it over the top of it. That way you can kind of stick it up there to hold it. But with the heater box hole here, or for the blower motor, I'm sorry, the blower motor, what I can do is stick my hand in here and I will stick that bolt up there, and when that Sharpie dot is in the middle, that's when I will weld that bolt head from out here. I'll weld that up, and then when I grind it, there's nothing there. So what that does is it welds studs to the firewall on the back side, and you can hang your firewall pad on there and attach it with acorn nuts and a little bit bigger washer. You could paint the, you know, washers and nuts black, or you could just leave them raw, or you could polish them. And I'll show you what it looks like here. It's kind of dark in here, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that. Actually, it's dark in here. So anyway, I've got them in the sponge pads that go on the firewall for your factory steering column. I've got them all welded around here so it all bolts in that way. And I got these fancy nuts over here on this side. Anyway, it just makes for a nice, clean firewall, and then you don't have these things protruding through there. Now, originally, I didn't want to do this much work to this car. It's one of them deals where I've got to clean the firewall up and I've got to do some welding and grinding on it, and the firewall's pretty rough. There's lots of dents and stuff in it, so I'm going to go ahead, if I got to do body filler work, I might as well do this and just fix this stuff, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to go through and do a super smooth job like, you know, my hardtop is. But I'm definitely going to weld a bolt here and here. And if you do this on bare metal or paint or anything, if you put a Sharpie mark on your car, you make sure and sand that off there, because that will bleed through your primer into your paint. So make sure that is completely clean metal before you go to put your primer on. So anyway, for the sponge seal, it's got all of them around here. One there, 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 and there. So I'll weld bolts over here, and I can get up in here doing it this way. And then I think it takes one there, and it definitely takes one there. I can't remember if that's one or not, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's about the same size hole. Now this is where the factory fuse panel goes. So I'm going to go ahead and weld 2 little bolts there also. And because I'm going to do a factory fuse panel for now, but I may change the wiring harness out later. Just depends. But anyway, that's what I plan on doing. So it looks like there's actually quite a few holes that I'm going to have to weld up in this firewall that I do not want. I can run you through some of this stuff real quick if you're gonna, you know, like if you got your car all stripped out and you don't really know what goes where. Your factory battery box bolts into this hole here and here, and in this brace right here, one there and one there. So it'll take 4 5/16 by 18 bolts, and I think they're about 3/4 long or something, maybe 1 inch long or something. Anyway, there is another nut in your body right here, and that is for your braided ground cable that goes to your battery. It bolts on here and just comes up and goes to your battery post on your negative side. Then down here you have another threaded nut. That's 5/16 by 18. This is 5/16 by 18. This is your ground strap that goes to your engine or your transmission, one of the two. That is your body to engine ground location there. So, and then here's your factory throttle shaft assembly. These are 1/4 by 20s on the thread. This hole right here, this one right out here, if you're going to use your factory heater box assembly, you need this hole. And it takes just a coarse thread, I can't remember what number it is, screw that will come out this way. So this one will also get a nut, a 1/4 by 20, I'm sorry, a bolt, 1/4 by 20 bolt on it as well. So when I attach the heater box inside, it will be an acorn nut and a washer. So I can't really remember what these two are for. I'm kind of at a loss on that. But anyway, man, these firewalls are rough, let me tell you. This one just has an open hole here because, you know, over here it's got a threaded nut in it. This one over here, there's nothing here, so I'm going to put a, well, I'll just show you. This is another something I do. These are nails that I get from Lowe's. They're big-headed nails. Now I will take that and I'll hold on to it with my fingers like that, and I'll take it to the wire wheel and get the coating off of it where it's bare metal. And this is awesome for certain size holes like that one. Like it fits right up in there flush, so I can weld that in there. Once it's welded, then I'll take a cutoff wheel and cut off the nail itself. So these make good hole plugs for if you're plugging holes and stuff. All right, guys, it is the end of Friday, day 16. The sun got on this side of the carport on me, and it's pretty much cooking me. So it's after 5. Wife's on the way home with food, so I think I need to clean up my mess and I'm going to be done. I ended up dragging all kinds of crap out to mock up. So I've got a huge mess to clean up already. But anyway, I've still got more metal work to do on the firewall. Lots of little stuff to weld up and finish out. But I've actually done quite a bit. It just, you can't really tell yet. But so I got a lot of the firewall sanded down, but I've still got lots more to go. This stuff is a mess. That old seam sealer is really a mess to try to get off, but I did get it all off on this side, other than this spot here and all the way down. But anyway, so I welded the 3/4 inch long 1/4 by 20 bolts in here where the little sponge seal and the rubber cover goes for your steering column. And it turned out pretty nice. It's pretty clean looking, just a little bit of filler. I got my dimmer switch thing done. These firewalls have a hole here and a hole up here, and I've got that one welded. I welded that one, but I still got to dig that one out of the crud. But I welded up this. I used the nail head in there to weld that up. But anyway, I'll show you on the inside here. This is just for mock-up purposes, for reference. So when you weld the bolts in here and you put your, you got a sponge seal like this that goes on the column, and then this goes on to cover that. So this is more or less your pretty thing on there. But anyway, I put an acorn nut on there. Now I'll use some a little bit bigger washers, probably about the size of the indent on this, to bolt it on. But that is what it looks like on there with the bolts sticking out. It's pretty cool. I did run into something on here which was kind of weird. I had welded a bolt here as well because there was the same size hole here as these two, or well, all of them, but when I put this on, it doesn't have a hole in it, and I don't know if it's because this car was originally a standard and I'm going to automatic. This is actually from an automatic car, because the standards have a hole here to go through here. But anyway, so I just cut the stud part off, left the head of the bolt there because it's sunk in this bead, so it's down as low as that, so it ain't gonna matter. But I ended up welding two 1032, or no, 1024 bolts to where the fuse panel would normally screw on with 2 Phillips screws. So now the fuse panel will be, I mean, it's just sitting there, I don't have it bolted on, but anyway, I have the studs welded on there for that. So while I was under here, I'm using a Sun Pro triple gauge pod here that my dad had given me from his 56 Chevy he used to have. This is a pretty new set. Anyway, I marked off the bottom of the dash evenly and drilled the holes and then cleaned up underneath, and I actually welded square nuts. I don't know if you can see that or not. I welded square nuts in there. So now it takes 1032, I think, Phillips screws up through here to bolt it on, so I don't have to fumble around with nuts or, you know, try to use a coarse thread screw or whatever. And that way, if I ever decide to remove these, it's just some nuts welded underneath the dash like there is in all these cars anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Had to weld up 2 holes here, get that ground smooth. But, I mean, it's progress, you know what I mean? It's a little bit of progress.